UFC Sandhagen versus Figueiredo. This is another great card, although it's certainly less good than the last fight night, but it's still a great fight night, which is crazy because UFC doesn't usually get back-to-back great fight night cards like this anymore. And I mean, I've got about 2 hours to finish this prediction, so let's just jump into it, okay, man? We have Ivana Petrovic and Julia Miller. I mean, Julia Miller is 3-3. I mean, I'm not gonna base this prediction just off of record, but I mean, based off that alone, she should not be in the UFC. Okay, you should not be 3-3 and in the UFC. That kind of rhymes, but whatever. Ivana Petrovic as well. She has better jiu-jitsu, pretty much 5-inch reach advantage, 1-inch height advantage. That's also something. The height is definitely a factor, albeit 1 inch is not going to mean a lot. But she has the better jiu-jitsu. She has the better striking. I feel like, although the striking could be close, I just feel like on paper, Ivana. She doesn't use her reach that well, but on paper she could. And so I'm gonna give her the edge in the striking, albeit Juliana Miller could just be one of these gritty Sam Hughes types and just get in the pocket and exit at the right moments. And then Ivana Petrovic, though, she has really good jiu-jitsu, honestly. So I'm gonna have to say a second round submission, honestly, because there's not many opportunities for submissions on this card. And so I'm gonna go with it where I can with these, especially female fighters, because they usually, if it's gonna be a finish, it's gonna be a submission. So, and lately they've been getting finishes a lot more lately. So, I'm gonna trust in the finish from a female MMA fight this time around. So yeah, second round submission. I'm gonna take a finish where I can, because usually with these women's MMA fights, I usually just pick like decision. And then Dontel Mays versus Thomas Peterson. I'm actually gonna go with Dontel Mays, and I'm gonna go with second round KO, because I think that he's gonna be a little too patient in the first round. But he's 6'6", 81-inch reach compared to Thomas Peterson, who should be fighting at middleweight with his attributes. 74 inches of reach is horrible for a heavyweight. 6'1" is not good either. Now, he is going to be a little faster, I think, but Tontel Mays has the power, and Shamil Gaziev was clipping him with just super telegraphed, what's the word I'm looking for? It was obvious. It was obvious what Shamil Gaziev was throwing. Just telegraphed right straights, I believe, or hooks. I believe it was a straight, but it could have been a hook. Just unoblivious, I guess is the word I was looking for, unoblivious to, these attacks from Shamil Gaziev, Thomas Peterson. Now, I understand that Shamil Gaziev is a tall and big dude as well, but, and I also understand Dontel Mays has had a history of struggling against grapplers, but Thomas Peterson just kind of gets you down, and he can't really do much with it. Now, it's at heavyweight, so Dontel Mays might not be able to get back up if it gets down there, which is a problem. And that's why likely why he is a big underdog. And also, he's on a 2-fight loss streak. He's 11-8, which is not a great record, but Dontel Mays has had a history of these guys like Rodrigo Nascimento, who have had a history of submissions, who have had a history of getting people down, who no longer can. Right? I believe the first fight between Rodrigo Nascimento and Dontel Mays was a submission, and then it just was a stalling fest against the fence, where Dontel Mays actually had some moments and arguably won a round, and then I think actually it was a lot more competitive than that. It was like the rounds that Rodrigo Nascimento actually won were also competitive, and then you look at the Shamil Gaziev fight for Dontel Mays, it was a decision. Now, I think that Shamil's a better wrestler than Thomas Peterson. I do. I think he's at the very least a better in the fact that he's a better top player, a better pressuring guy. He likes to smudge you, and he does better at that. And meanwhile, Thomas Peterson, lately, he's just been getting takedowns and then letting you back up. So I honestly think that this is a pretty easy one to pick here. And then Gaston Bolaños, I'm surprised that people are saying he looks like Topuria. I don't really see it. Yeah, I'm gonna go with decision here. I haven't done too much research on this one particularly, but I was really impressed with his win against Cortavious Ramios. Let me just double check. Yeah. Even though Cortavious Ramios has been letting me down quite a bit as of late, I certainly really, really like what I've been seeing from both guys. Cortavious Ramios, only thing I don't like is that he was engaging in grappling sequences against a better grappler in his last fight. For Cortavious Ramios, but in his last fight against Gaston Bolaños, he also looked quite good, and so did Gaston Bolaños. Now, maybe that just is like a situation like a Mateus Gamrot versus Guram Kutuladzé, or a Demir Ismagulov versus Guram, where it's like, oh, both of them actually make each other look so good, when in actuality they're not. It's just that they're fighting to the level of the opposition. It could be that that's making Gaston Bolaños actually seem pretty good, and maybe Cortavios Ramos isn't actually that good at all. But I'm gonna go with a decision for Gaston Bolaños. I really liked his striking in his last fight. And then Julian Robertson versus Marina Rodriguez. I'm gonna have to go with Julian Robertson, but Julian Robertson, I really, really don't like her striking. It's just a matter of Marina Rodriguez. I don't know though, because she does actually have a better striking by far. It's just I don't know. I mean, she's never been really that good against strikers. That's one thing that we have to keep in mind here. Momentum's on her side though, and Marina's 38. I really, really want to pick Marina Rodriguez, to be honest, just on the fact that she is actually what's the word I'm looking for? She is, better striker, a good underdog. She was going up against better opposition, arguably, more well-ranked, more well-known, and getting split decisions against them. But I think that her ground game is miles apart. I mean, it's kind of similar with the striking for Julian Robertson as well. I feel like her striking is really bad, but I also feel like Marina Rodriguez's grappling is really bad. So I'm going to have to go with I'm going to go with a decision for Robertson. I feel like if she gets a sub, it would have to be like really early where they're dry and, she kind of gets in a jiu-jitsu entanglement when Marina Rodriguez least expects it. So I'm going to have to go with the decision there. And then Azamat Bekoyev and Ryan Loder. I like the underdog of Ryan Loder, but I think that Bekoyev, showing that he has the the will to actually go for back of the head shots, while most other fighters just don't go for it. I think that shows that he's able to take advantage of the rules where other fighters won't. And Ryan Loder, he's just also too patient. So I could see him ending up in a similar position as Zach Reese, where he's getting he's trying to get up, but then he gets hit to the back of the head far too much, and then he gets TKO'd. So I'm gonna say a back of the head TKO or vicious KO, maybe due to the back of the head shots, where Ryan Loder just doesn't recover after it. I'm gonna say in the second round as well, another second round KO for Azamat Bekoyev. And then we have Yana Santos versus Miesha Tate. Now, this is one that if you didn't watch the tape, you'd say, okay, Yana Santos actually has a chance. She has no chance if Miesha Tate comes back any way that she used to. Now, Miesha Tate, in her last fight, she looked really good. The problem is it was a year and 8 months ago or so, and that's really not good. Whereas Yana Santos, she's been fighting way more, at least as of recent. So for sure, it's certainly that's something I was looking at, and that's why the odds are so close, I think. But if you actually look at the Chelsea Chandler fight, yes, Yana Santos did pretty great, and in my opinion, she won all 3 rounds, I think. But and yes, it was 5 pounds difference because Chelsea Chandler missed weight by 5 pounds, but her shots were terrible. She was just swinging punches wildly, and then she could never get underhooks. Miesha Tate in her last fight, if you see, she always gets the underhook. She always makes sure to shoot immediately. I think this is going to be a pretty easy win for Miesha Tate. I'm going to have to go with a submission in the second round, I'm going to say. For Miesha Tate. And then we have Jeremy Stephens versus Mason Jones. Mason Jones, I was watching his last Cage Warriors fight. I believe it was his last Cage Warriors fight. I'm not sure if it was his last one, but I was watching one of his most recent Cage Warriors fights. And man, he just keeps going after it. Now, with that style, he could end up getting caught and getting viciously KO'd, but Jeremy Stephens is much slower at this age of almost 40, 38 and 11 months, not great. Mason Jones, on the other hand, is getting another chance at the UFC, where he actually had a close fight against Ludovic Klein, who is actually going to fight Mateus Gamrot, who's going to get a crack at the rankings. So it shows how good Mason Jones actually is, and Ludovic Klein actually is. The fact that they went to a tit-for-tat decision, and Mason Jones went on a 4-fight win streak outside of the UFC. Now, Mason Jones, he isn't that good, okay? But he's a scrappy guy. He has a really durable chin. He has okay head movement, and he likes to go for that collar tie, and he likes to just throw uppercuts and hooks inside. Sometimes elbows even, and his elbows are vicious. I believe he cut his last opponent up viciously with blood all over him on the side of his head. I think it was on the temple, somewhere around there, maybe the eyebrow. And he just, yeah, I mean, he just ended up, I don't know if it was a takedown or if it was a punch, but he ended up getting him to the ground, and he just kind of landed some nasty elbows, and then the ref just said that's enough. So, yeah, I'm going to say that he cuts him open with some elbows. I'm going to say around 2, probably... Probably TKO to cuts. Probably doctor stoppage, I would say. Probably the doctor intervenes. I think that makes sense. And then here's another one that if you didn't watch the tape, you would think Cameron Smotherman. You'd see him and you'd say, oh, but look at his record. Look at his constant wins. Look at the fact that he's not going to split decisions against guys that aren't that good like Garrett Armfield. Well, actually, Garrett Armfield has okay boxing, especially to the body. And Cameron Smotherman does have that too. So I can understand why some people think that he's good because or good stylistically for this fight, because he goes to the body quite a bit, and Sergey City, against Garrett Armfield, Sergey City was eating some body shots. But if you actually look and rewatch specific moments of both of their last fights, Jake Hadley, mind you, is a flyweight, really. He just went up to bantamweight because he didn't like the weight cut. And then Sergey City, on the other hand, has a much better frame for this weight class. He is a really, really big bantamweight. And he could even make featherweight, I truly believe, quite well, and he'd fit in quite well there too. And then you look at the fact that Cameron Smotherman, he really doesn't have good entries. He just kind of swings to the body, swings upstairs with hooks. Sometimes he'll throw jabs. Sometimes he'll throw jabs to the body as well. But he really doesn't have, and then sometimes he'll do little teeps, which is also good, something that could work. But he's really, really one-dimensional, and sometimes he throws just one strike. Sometimes he'll do like body upstairs, like right to the body and then upstairs. But he's really not, especially considering that Jake Hadley backs up and he gives him that space usually. Sergey City, I don't think will do that. I think he's going to use his teep kicks. I think he's going to, when he gets his groove, when he gets his, his timing, I think that he's going to land a lot of good shots upstairs as well. And I think that he's going to piece up Cameron Smotherman. Now I'm going to say a decision, just because it's safe here. And Sergey City doesn't usually go for very many finishes. He does have a decent killer instinct, actually. Against Garrett Armfield, he was kind of going for it. And one thing that's also kind of worrying for Sergey City is in the third round, he was kind of getting taken down a lot against Garrett Armfield. Let me just double check it's Garrett Armfield I'm talking about. Yeah, don't want to mess that up there. But yeah, that's also kind of worrying. He might just get taken down and just smushed. But I think this is a great underdog here. I mean, not on the odds, but on the Tapology fans, because most of them are picking Smotherman. And if you don't look at the fact that stylistically, this is a great match for Sergey City. If you just look at their recent performances, you'd say, oh yeah, I mean, Cameron Smotherman on like a week's notice as a massive underdog just beat Jake Hadley, pretty quickly and decisively. Or not quickly, but, decisively. But, it's just a different level. I don't feel like Jake Hadley was ever that special. I mean, the guy that he beat before that, Callum Lockram, he wasn't really that good. He was just kind of like, he's got some good hooks, and he's a little bit fast. That's it for Callum Lockram. So the fact that he beat that guy, that wasn't that impressive, let's be honest. So decision. And then Montel Jackson versus Daniel Marcos. I'm actually going to go with Montel Jackson, because I feel like Montel Jackson here, he has the much better straight punches and also the knockout power, because, I mean, we've seen in his past fights that he has 11 knockdowns in his bantamweight career, okay? That is something to note here. And his straight punches are really good here. If you look at Daniel Marcos' last fight against Adrian Yanez, Adrian Yanez likes to go for hooks more than jabs, and also uppercuts even. You see in his previous fights, against that one guy, I think it was a Costa guy, I forgot the rest of his name. I don't think it was Alejandro Costa, but someone else, Costa. He likes to go for the uppercut quite a bit. And then he likes to do jabs sometimes, yes, if he's feeling his groove. What's it, Adrian Yanez, but against what is his name, Daniel Marcos, he wasn't going for much jabs at all. And then Montel Jackson, on the other hand, he likes to jab, he likes to go for 1-2, he loves straight punches. And Daniel Marcos, with his defensive style, he leaves himself open so much for that I can just see a late round 1 KO, honestly. I really can, because I could see it being kind of a, I don't know, feeling out process early on, but then eventually he finds the chin and then he puts him out because he really just does have a crazy power. And so does Daniel Marcos. He has, well, maybe not the power, but he has accurate punches. And that's something that we see time and time again. He didn't drop Adrian Yanez in the first round, or at least early on in that fight. But what he did do was he let Adrian Yanez get a few shots in, get his groove, and then boom, he disrupts it by hitting him with some straight punches of his own. Which, Montel Jackson certainly has to look out for because he doesn't have the best defense either, although I would argue it's better. He keeps his hands closer to his chin, and he, but Daniel Marcos, he has very good straight punches too, very good 1-2s. That's how he dropped John, I think it's John Castaneda. Yeah, I think that's his second last opponent. So I'm going to say second round or first round KO viciously. And then Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Daniel Rodriguez. Now, I'm going to go with a second round KO for Ponzinibbio. Lots of KOs. And this time, it's going to be for the reason that even though they're both very, very basic in what they throw out, especially Ponzinibbio lately, it looks like he just throws a one and then a big overhand. One and then a big overhand. Sometimes he'll throw just a normal 1-2 straight down the pipe, but sometimes he just really likes to go one overhand. 1-2 overhand, And Daniel Rodriguez, the problem with him in this fight, for me to pick him, is not only can Santiago Ponzinibbio win this fight to a decision based on more damaging punches, but also he can win by the KO. I feel like he has way more ways to win. He could even win on the ground, I feel like, because I think Daniel Rodriguez, he got destroyed against Neil Magny on the ground, I'm pretty sure. And, what do I mean I'm pretty sure? I remember that. And, on top of that, Daniel Rodriguez, the problem with him is, another thing, the problem with picking him in this fight is he just doesn't have any fast twitch muscle fiber. He doesn't have any power. He doesn't have any pop on his shots. Whereas Santiago Ponzinibbio, even though sometimes it's due to the fact that he loads up on his shot so much, he always gets powerful shots landed on his opponent. Sometimes it takes a while, but he eventually gets the target. He eventually finds the target. He finds the blow. He gets to his target eventually, and when it does get there, it's nasty. And so, even though it could be a decision, very well could be, I'm going to go with the second round KO because I truly feel like Daniel Rodriguez doesn't have anything that would make Santiago Ponzinibbio worry. The only thing is that Santiago Ponzinibbio doesn't have a good chin. After the massive amounts of experience and wars in the octagon that he's had, he really just doesn't take a shot the same as he used to. And yes, even previously he didn't take a shot too well, but now more so than ever. So yeah, I mean, it's only thing to worry about here is the chin. I feel like they're both kind of just 1-2. Overhand, 1-2, just basic shots, not really anything spectacular. So I'm going to say round 2 KO for Santiago Ponzinibbio. And then Bo Nickel versus Rainier de Ridder. I'm going with Bo Nickel. I'm going to go with a 30-27 decision. I think that he's being massively underrated at this point against Rainier de Ridder in this fight. Don't get me wrong, I think he was massively overrated. The minus 1,000 odds on the Paul Craig fight was insane. He should not be minus 1,000 against that guy who, in my opinion, he went to a 50-50 fight against. I genuinely thought that there were 2 toss-up rounds and only 1 clear round for Bo Nickel. And I thought that it could have arguably went to Paul Craig. It just depends on, what are we looking at here? Are we looking at the overhand to the body, or are we looking at the body kicks for Paul Craig? Which, yes, granted, he checked a lot or blocked a lot of those with his arm, but, those were landing. Those were still landing, and you could hear the impact. But Rainier de Ridder has terrible striking. Rainier de Ridder, he has a really good ground game, but it's just unfortunate for him that he's not going to be able to use it. I really don't think so. Against a guy like Kevin Holland, yes, he's not that hard to take down. Against a guy like Gerald Meerschaert, yes, he's inconsistent. But even then, Gerald Meerschaert was piecing him up. It went to a 50-50 fight until the third round, where he finally got to submission, and Rainier de Ridder got a gas to GM3. GM3 was gassing at that point, and Bo Nickel one thing I gotta say about Bo Nickel is he hasn't shown a bad gas tank. I haven't seen that. Now, granted, it could just be due to him pacing himself pretty well, but I think that it's probably going to be mostly a stand-up fight. I really don't see either guy taking each other down too successfully. They're probably going to end up in some pretty exciting scrambles, but they're not going to have any great significant amount of control time on one or another. I don't think either guy is going to have a significant advantage on the ground. I really don't, because René de Ritter, at least, even if he doesn't have all the accolades in wrestling and whatever else, Bo Nickel certainly is smaller. Reinier de Ritter is a big guy. He fought at light heavyweight, and Bo Nickel doesn't even have a lot of muscle definition. If you look at all his previous fights, if you look at his weigh-ins, he's never been that big of a guy. So I think that even if Reinier de Ritter doesn't have as much of his skills on the ground, I feel like it's going to be certainly sort of made up for with the advantage in the strength from Reinier de Ritter. That's truly what I see here, and so I feel like in the end it's going to be a striking match, and I think that Bo Nickel has much more measured, better accuracy striking than a GM3, and he doesn't gas like GM3, and so I don't see him messing up in the third round. I think he's going to score the first 2 rounds at least, and I think that the third round could be competitive if Bo Nickel somehow gasses and GM3 or Reinier de Ritter manages to get a takedown or make something happen on the ground. But I don't think he has the power. I think he has sloppy striking. Sure, he can land sometimes. Sure, I think he even dropped a GM3 one time with like a jab or something, but again, that was just a lucky punch. I truly believe that. His striking looks awful, honestly, in there. It's like Dricus du Plessis, that's a little bit taller, but no strength, no real like physical attributes aside from the fact that he's tall. That's pretty much it. So I'm gonna say a decision there for Bo Nickel, and then Cory Sandhagen. And also the overhand from Bo Nickel, I think, is going to stun Reinier de Ritter a couple of times, but it might land to the body more so because he's smaller than Reinier de Ritter. Cory Sandhagen, Deiveson Figueirdo. This one's so easy to pick. Cory Sandhagen, 49-46. I mean, this is just what he's been doing. He's been getting 49-46s. That's just what he does these days. Now, Cory Sandhagen, he had now the height. 5'11 to 5'5. That matters a lot. You look back at the Marlon Vera fight for Deiveson Figueiredo, and he was actually going to a 50-50 tit-for-tat fight until he got the knockdown in the third round, I believe it was. And so you look at that, you look at the fact that he actually couldn't get any real damaging strikes until the third round against a guy who likes to be patient and find his flow, find his timing, a guy who's defensively, who's mostly just a defensive fighter, just a defensively responsible guy, and who's not really, I don't think he's as tall as Cory. I think he's listed at 5'9". And Cory uses his reach much better. He uses his height much better. It's a 2-inch reach advantage, so it's not crazy, but he is 5'11", and that matters a lot. When you have a 2-inch reach advantage and a 6-inch a height advantage, that's a lot. That's really a lot. And so when we piece this all together, Deiveson Figueiredo, what he likes to do in the bantamweight division, I was watching back some of his bantamweight fights. Man, the problem with Deiveson Figueiredo is he's too big for flyweight. He can't make the weight, but that's his natural weight class. If you look at most of these fights in was it bantamweight that he's bantamweight that he's winning, it's just it's not guys that are particularly that really skilled. It's not these guys that are very elite. Against Rob Font, he's not really that good in the striking. What? No, he's great in the striking, but he's not really that good with the takedowns, and so Deiveson was able to get a few on him. Cody Garbrandt doesn't have good takedown defense or jiu-jitsu defense, and Cody Garbrandt's not really that elite. He just has fast hooks and, I guess, KO power. And Marlon Vera is not elite either. He just has good defense. That's pretty much it. And, I guess, good power. Rob Font, he is probably the most skilled guy. And he just had peppermint punches, like Lucas Tracy would say. So Deiveson Figueiredo didn't have to worry about what was coming back at him. Cory Sandhagen, yes, he doesn't have really good power either. But the way he's talking in the lead up to this makes me seem like he also wants to go a little more aggressive here. Now, whether that'll be to his detriment, I think it could be. But, Deiveson Figueiredo ultimately, he's able to be more aggressive against these smaller guys, and that's the problem here. Against a guy like Cory Sandhagen, who's the tallest guy that he's ever gonna that he's fought as of late, I should say, or probably ever in his career. The tallest guy, the guy that uses his reach the best, the guy that feints a lot. He pumps out the jab, he pumps out the leg kicks, he pumps out a lot of different techniques. He's constantly switching stances, giving you something else to look at. I just really think that Deiveson Figueirdo, who likes to load up for his big right hand or his big he with the lead hand he paws and then he just unloads with a big overhand or a big straight. I just don't think that's gonna work on Cory Sandhagen, and then he needs to get these takedowns. Now he could get takedowns, and if he gets takedowns, that's where it gets interesting. Because I think that in the jiu-jitsu department, he could be a little better than Umar, but Umar has better takedowns overall. I think that's a given, and so also given the fact that Umar's a big guy for the weight class. He just is. Now Merab also is. So I mean, it showed in that fight that he's not the strongest guy. He's not the biggest guy in the weight class. But it showed that Umar is a big guy too. In the Sandhagen fight at least, and look at the Bekzat Almakhan fight as well. Bekzat Almakhan was just trying to shuck him off, he kept trying to shuck him off with the hips, right? He kept trying to bounce him off. But Umar just stayed in there. He stayed on the full mount. He stayed on the mount, and he just kept unloading shots like a freaking boulder. He stayed on Bekzat Almakhan. And Cory Sandhagen, he just couldn't get Umar off of him at the later rounds, or early. He had some success with the scrambles, but later, as the fight went on, Sandhagen just didn't have an answer for anything, and I think that Umar also has better boxing. I feel like Deiveson, he's got a decent karate style, but he's susceptible to leg kicks. He can't use the uppercuts that he used against Jan. He can't use sometimes he'll land a straight right for sure. Sometimes he'll land with his bombs, but it's not enough. I don't think that Cory has a bad chin. I really don't. And I think he'll be able to take it. It's a full camp. I don't think he has any injuries like he did in the Rob Font fight. I'm going to say a clear 49-46 here. I think that Deiveson can start strong in the first round, and then it's just a takeover for Cory in the later rounds. I think this is just an easy pick. So, yeah, this is my UFC Des Moines, I think it's called. Forgive me for my pronunciation there, but if it's wrong, at least. Sandhagen versus Deiveson Figueirdo predictions. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Mask of MMA out.